Hello, welcome. This is the beginning of a new series about creativity and superpowers. At first, it may seem a bit of a long shot talking about superpowers when we've seen wacky comic strips where people do impossible things. But in terms of what we can learn through our own potential, I think it's fair to say they are superpowers. And this session is going to look at the power of purpose. Now, from my point of view, purpose matters a lot. And reflecting on time when I was at school, I don't recall people talking about purpose. They talked about what job are you going to do when you grow up. And that is still very much the case. When you look into education, you find a really strong emphasis on employment. And although I think it's really important, employment, but it is one dimension of our possibilities. In the end, I think creative people actually can invent areas of employment which are far more significant to the world than just doing what the world has been doing. In fact, the world keeping on doing what it's doing is digging a deeper and deeper hole for itself, I believe. While at school, I don't remember any talking about purpose, and I was completely unsure of what to do next. I did actually really well at school, high school, and decided, okay, I'd apply for a studentship at university, and that meant you signed up in a process where the government paid us to go through the beginnings of training to be a teacher. And the odd thing compared to now was I got paid, along with many others, to attend university. So I went to an art school, a university art school, and the result verged on traumatic. I ended up being overloaded, took too many subjects, having been encouraged by advisors to do that, and eventually caught pneumonia and was kept alive by a doctor who popped in morning and evening injecting me with penicillin. And I actually did survive, but the whole sense of what was happening was really bad. And I ended up feeling depressed and out of it and, like a train off the rails, I guess. Over time, things changed. And an irony was the default option, because I couldn't complete the university work, the default option was going to Teachers College, which the universities thought was very low grade, and viewed it with, they had quite a snobby point of view of teachers' colleges. Excuse me. The Teachers College I went to it turned out really to be my salvation. It was incredibly good. And the focus on learning was completely different from the university. There's far more concern about who you were, learning to understand yourself, being relevant, discovering things about the world and other people. And ironically, they weren't terribly interested in teaching people how to teach. In fact, I believe that the organisation as a whole thought the main deal about learning to teach was doing some teaching. And knowing yourself was the first step. So very gradually at Teachers College I started doing things which I thoroughly enjoyed, got me really motivated. And then in the midst of that, periodically we got sent out on what was called section, where you'd spend 3 or 4 weeks in a regular school and be sort of guided by the class teacher. And ironically, that was like a trip back to the university. I found the teachers just as out of whack with the purpose of the students as the university was with me. I tried to help students by getting them to, we'd go for a walk and then come back, talk about what we'd seen on the way, and I invited people to write about that, and they were actually keen to write, and they did write, and then we concentrated on helping them learn what they wanted to say, spell the words that were relevant, just to be relevant with them. Now, at the time, that was heresy, really. and something was brewing in me to get beyond it. So in the end, I left teaching and did other things for a while, and I went back in a way to my art school skills and started doing printmaking, and selling the prints was a real hurdle. So I ended up thinking, ooh, I'm going to have to take some of these door to door. And I took a package of prints, knocked on doors in Wellington, and actually had enough success to survive. But it was pretty tough going. From that, one thing led to another, and I had a period of 4 or 5 years actually doing printmaking at various levels. We tapped into the poster boom, which came at a really good time, and I did okay. But then the poster boom started looking like just being a business, and that to me wasn't creative, and other things happened. For a while I got into journalism, and journalism was great because I learned more and more about people. I found I could chat to people, do interviews, write articles, take photographs, and so on. That was mostly pretty exhilarating, but still didn't take me to where I wanted to be. And the thing that followed, I decided, okay, I will have a crack at advertising an art course, which I did, and in Wellington got about 6 takers. They were all people in their mainly around 30ish, I suppose, and they were all doing art. But the curious thing is they wanted to get beyond art. They didn't want just technique. They wanted something, it almost seemed like a magical ingredient. What was the purpose of their art? How did art relate to their life? How did creativity relate to their life? And so that was very much the undercurrent. And after a while, just the interaction with the students, we collectively contributed to a new program which we called Thinking for a Change, and that unfolded and became more and more established, and now 30 years later it is still going strong, still really working. People come to our school, go through Thinking for a Change, and boy oh boy, it can make a difference. The catch is it does take time, and I think maybe that's one of the hardest things. The idea in education that you come up with answers quickly, do the right thing, get a tick, get a good mark, and you're on to the next stage. Well, I got good marks and didn't arrive at the next stage, so I was sceptical about that. And this quiet process, working with the students and then getting enough people to actually make it sustainable, that is what gradually turned the whole dynamic of my life. Now, you could say, well, okay, that happened to you, good luck. Can it happen to you? Well, the short answer in my experience is yes, but it is not a quick fix, and that's why it's not like a comic book superpower. It is something you have to gently work at over time, and things like door-to-door selling, that can be tough. The point about it, though, is you can learn something from it, and when you learn, you think, what do I do next? How can I do something that fits me more? And all the time, there's exploration, testing, and a bit of risk-taking. And it's quite different from how to come up with a right answer, because to begin with, you don't know the right answer. So, in terms of finding purpose, I really encourage people to think about what was it at any stage earlier in my life that really lit me up? What did you do that was exciting to you? And it might have been quite transitory. I mean, it could have been, who knows, going down a ski slope, something like that. Could have been, you might have had a dabble in painting and thought, wow, I love this stuff. You might have been walking along a beach looking at things in the rock pools. Anything at all that just somehow entranced you, because I think often the seeds of purpose are in your collective experience already. Once you get onto that, you can begin to take it further. I call these little seeds attractors. You can pay attention to your attractors and think, wonder what I could do about that. For example, if you had real empathy with people in some situation, you might find that empathy right at this time is one of the most important attributes going. You don't get exam marks for empathy. That doesn't turn up in exams, but it can really make a difference to the world today. And if you combine that with other skills, like you can work with people who've got techie skills or so on. If you were doing a film like we're doing at the moment, being on the other side of the camera requires some techie skills, but being empathetic is what actually brings it all together. Without the empathy, it doesn't work. So look for the seeds, take some time, there's not a rush, and then we're going to move into further what I'm calling superpowers, just because it sounds dinky, but I think at a certain level it's true, and we're going to go step by step, look at a range of things, and at the same time I'll be putting out this material in the newsletter which you can sign up to for free, and gradually we'll take you through an arc which you can make work for yourself, or you might find that a really important point is to work with other people who actually have been down this track, and they can be of immense support. Fellow students can be of immense support, and that really was one of the drivers of our school. We found people needed time, needed support, and thrived on the interaction with others. So this is a first step, practical step in that direction. Let's continue next time. Thanks.